Hey YouTube land, just Jax here, and it's time for another vlog. It's probably past time for another vlog, but here we are. For those that this may be your first vlog of mine, I am Jax. I go by just Jax online, and I am now a 45-year-old man, and the two biggest factors in my life that have led to who I am today would be my health and the fact that I am transgender or under the transgender umbrella, so to speak. When I was 18, I did find out that what being trans meant, and it put a lot of things in my life into perspective at just 18 years old, and it has evolved over the years. I have some other videos explaining it a little better, and I don't want to go all over that again. Currently, I just want to talk about the last little over a year. Last Mayish, I started coming out to friends and family that, or at least talking out being genderqueer with other people that are under the trans umbrella and, in the community, and, just trying to figure myself out a little bit more. And that started even a year prior to that. Was just getting back into my local drag and LGBTQ community and seeing all different types of humans, and just how the trans umbrella itself had evolved, and getting to know non-binary people and creature drag and androgynous, like all of this just kind of just opened my eyes to a lot of things, not just about the world, but about myself. And it's a life learning experience that I did not take for granted, and I still do not take for granted. Some amazing humans taught me lessons after they told me that I was teaching them lessons in the drag community, or giving them inspiration. And it just was a, give and take, as, a family should be. And I appreciate everybody that had the conversations that they had with me, for me to, explore myself in private before I publicly came out after Pride last year in a vlog about being genderqueer and how it might change my life. And oh, did it. Gender has always been a big asterisk in my life, from not being girly enough to be a girl, not being boy enough to be a boy, and everything in between, and just going back and forth and not knowing exactly who I am because of everybody else's opinions, and getting to where just staying out as trans alone took a long time for me. And a lot of that was also socially, that a lot of people were like, if you're not on hormones, and if you didn't have this surgery, and if you didn't, that alone put me in a loop that I wasn't trans, that I wasn't a man or man enough to, say that I'm a man publicly, because I couldn't do these things because of different factors in my life. And just getting to staying out and insisting on he and never going back to she, that, like I said, that this was stages of my life for me that, I had to take kind of in a long way round, and it worked out for when it did. And I'm blessed to have the experiences I had along the way to teach me who I am. And I've equated gender and gender identity and even sexual orientation as, sometimes you gotta try on different sweaters, and there's definitely going to be a sweater that right away that does not work for me. And my gender is a mix of different fabrics and colors and styles that I still haven't fully explored yet. It's only been a little over a year, and drag once again really helped me explore more, from adding stones to my drag to, picking different colors that just weren't the most masculine ones I could find, and just changing my style and wardrobe, and mixing something of a women's thing here, or, an androgynous thing there. Even though I still presented and am male, I am gender fluid, and that my type of man is not the toxic man I tried to be after and before testosterone, to be male enough for strangers, pretty much. And getting that mentality off of me too was a long process, because I still, especially after coming out as genderqueer, had to correct people who misgendered me, because he or they, and that is fine, but it's definitely not she. I know that. So some people will also argue that I'm not genderqueer because I don't embrace the she moniker, and that's not what it is to me. And that's where this gets a little muddled for some people, and it's hard to understand. And it's understandable that it's hard to understand, because hi, it was hard for me to understand at the same time. But that's why I got an education on it, and I asked people their experiences, because you're not going to know and, be like, oh yeah, I can relate to everything in someone's life. No, but you can be like, oh, well, that thing I got, hey, can we talk about this? Or tell me more about this, because I don't know. That's what getting an education is, other than, being book smart. So I definitely have street smarts in my life, and empathy and compassion to listen to people, whether I relate or not. And then sometimes you can, and you don't even know that you can. So it was just through conversations that things, popped up for me in my life, and going way back to the beginning of, I wasn't girly enough to be picked for the girls team, and I was too girly for the boys team, but I was still better at this than them, and I was definitely better at this than them, and literally living in this gray area that isolated me a lot, especially in school. It very much did. And that became its own, trauma response to being too independent at times, but still trying to fit in here and there, and, adapting to what they like so I can be here, and acting this way so I can be included here is still hard for me. And learning who I am and sticking to who I am and not compromising on who I am is still a battle for me. And I have made leaps and bounds in the last 3 years, and I take that with me. You can't grow without planting seeds, and you can't grow without watering them. And sometimes it comes from an emotional guy with tears. So just long story short, a lot of things led to me knowing that this is right, but still exploring myself under this flag, under this umbrella. And one of the first things I did after coming out was get a tattoo that I would not have gotten for the longest time. My placement and type of tattoos and the tattoos I drew and I helped design were very much gender affirming for a majority of my life. And from even just the first time I got more than one color was, getting these stars around my karma tattoo. And even that was just like, I was worried that it was too feminine. And even the things I put on my own body were still to project and make people like aware, hopefully without having to question me. So I had to talk about this and explore it with somebody that I didn't care to in most situations. So being in customer service, all of my working career, and drag being in customer service in its own way, you end up having conversations you don't want to have, which, you put them out in other ways. And this is another form of that, but it also is the education for somebody else. So it is what it is. But back to the tattoo. And I got flowers. I got 3 flowers. 3 is a very important number to me. But when I saw it, I was like, can I pick the colors? And he was like, of course. And I was like, I want it to represent the genderqueer flag, because it is the green, white, and purple. And so he actually matched the colors to a picture of the flag as best as he could, and not just picking random green and purples, which I appreciated the touch even more. And it doesn't matter if anybody knows what it's for or not, but anyone that I have told what it means has lit up, especially people that have known me for a while. So, it just that alone was a big mark for me. And then, but before that and during that time, my fashion was changing, the color of my gauges, and wearing bright and pretty colors because I like them. Like that alone, and other jewelry that I wear now, like I wanted to wear longer chains before top surgery because that was more masculine in some ways, or that I was trying to emulate a certain style. But because I still had breast tissue, it didn't fall right, and so I never would have picked shorter necklaces and that kind of stuff. And I would buy men's jewelry that was too big for me, and that to me was more obvious. And it was just this masking and over compensation of a lot of things into my drag as well, to like make sure someone saw that I was a man. And it turned me into a toxic man in some ways, presenting wise. And it was very much a protective armor. And especially after top surgery, being able to take off. Whoa. That's Rory. You okay? Yeah. Yeah. Good girl. It's someone outside. Okay. Anyway, my wardrobe became a protective armor, especially before top surgery, because I would have to, like, even with a binder, like, it gave me more cleavage, and I didn't ever want people to see anything underneath. So I always had a t-shirt on, and I cut the sleeves off of those t-shirts to put on because I would have to wear so many layers, like even in the summer. And just evolving in that way and being able to take off the colors and the certain, all the black for trying to hide my tops, my top before surgery, and then, you know, other body things that I wasn't comfortable with. But that was already starting to change after testosterone, because it's hot in here. Funny that I have a fireplace. But it is very hot. Testosterone, and I was apparently premenopausal going into this, and it put me pretty much into menopause. And I don't know if that's any different from a normal transition, because I know it is compared to that anyway, but it was a lot for me. And especially getting so used to layers and kind of being swaddled in that way, especially when I was uncomfortable, not being able to do that because I literally get too hot, is its own encapsulation of just finding clothes that work for me in certain ways. And now I get to explore that in different ways than I thought I wanted before, because every picture and every outfit that I saved for, you know, after top surgery, these are the clothes I wanted to buy, I never bought. There was a reason at the time, and then when I went to go to buy certain clothes, I was like, that might not be what I want now. And so eventually when I do start buying, you know, different fall stuff, and, you know, maybe not just going in cutoffs in the summer, you know, there's a little bit more room to play with. And speaking of the cutoffs, it started actually way back before top surgery, and I would cut the sleeves just on the seams of my t-shirts, the white t-shirts I would wear underneath stuff. And so that started way back when, and, you know, it would go into drag because, you know, there'd be too many layers and stuff like that. So, you know, you pull the Celine Dion and, you know, you cuff things and you make things work. And last summer, my dog and I were starting to walk long walks around the neighborhoods. Even at 6 a.m, I was just gross. And it was that hot. And so I got some tanks and I cut off a couple of short sleeve shirts, and I really liked how I felt, but I was still very self-conscious about it. And I made a snap or a story or something somewhere, and I like had a picture in one of the shirts I made. I was like, I'm feeling cute, but too bad nobody wants to see this. And luckily my friends came to my mental rescue, and they like all built me up. And it came about where I wore a certain shirt for in the public on purpose, like out at night to a drag show. And I needed to, because it was hot as hell in that bar. And it became its own thing. And it's now to the point where I have a new farmer stand, for one. That's crazy, because it was always here-ish. And it is also evolved into, I don't like sleeves at all anymore, possibly at least on t-shirts. Because if I do go to wear a t-shirt somewhere because I feel like I need to wear a t-shirt, but I don't want to, you know, be more formal than that, it's uncomfortable in its own new way. And like I said, this is very gender affirming for me. Like, to be able to show this much of my skin, I would never have done it before top surgery, because then I was afraid it was going to show a binder or a sports bra or something that someone would peg me, in a way I didn't want. So this alone after top surgery is very nice. It's very wanted and it's very needed in its own way, and it's become its own thing within how I express myself. So that alone has been an ongoing work in progress, but I just might do it in pretty colors now. But I have literally since I went to the trouble of doing this, 90% of my t-shirts are now cutoffs. And I have bought some of these at, Goodwill and stuff, to just cut them off. So yeah, that's a thing. And then, this winter I can just put a flannel over it. I can put, a denim shirt over it, and then, I'll still be comfy underneath. So, it'll work out. But the other biggest change, other than colors I choose now and jewelry and this, that, and the other, is my hair. I never, ever, ever thought I would grow my hair back out in any way other than something short and, stylish that I had been doing. I have grown out the top off and on, especially in the winter, for drag. And I very much don't know when exactly I decided to not cut the top anymore. But then as it was growing out, I realized, hey, I can do this Johnny Depp crybaby hair that I've loved my entire, since I saw it. And, he's very much a fashion style icon for me, and his hair alone to me is, worthy. And I was like, I'm going to have to grow my hair out. And it just kept going. And now that, I don't do drag anymore, I can, it's kind of like being an actor where like they have to grow out their facial hair or their hair for a movie. There's some that's cosmetic, but there's, some stuff they want. I don't have to cut my hair for drag. And I didn't have to at the time, but I thought I did. And like I said, within the last 2 years and stuff, I realized, my drag persona and I very much overlap, and, having, the same hair has to go into it for drag, and I just learned to incorporate it as it grew, and it, I could do the, style that I was used to, but just a little longer. And I really, really liked it. It was very, very much, it was very much a good style change for me and for my drag. And then because of other things and other parts of being genderqueer, I added glitter to my hair. I added glitter everywhere I could pretty much by the end of my retirement. From stones on my clothes to literally finding a method that worked for me to getting glitter on my skin for most shows, especially since I was showing my chest. We kind of avoided the face because it went into my mustache and my goatee. And it ended up in my hair product, so it would go into my hair. I was what I ended up calling pretty much it was a form of Edward Cullen, Johnny Bravo, and Johnny Depp, crybaby Johnny Depp. It was kind of this whole big mashup of all those things. And I wasn't mad about it because I sparkled from head to toe, but I had the machismo of Johnny Bravo with, a little bit of Johnny Depp in there with, all that. And it became its own identity in my drag, and whether other people saw it every time or not, it made me happy. And that was the point. And that's where I come in to where, gender expression and drag really can put sometimes a new pep in your step, or be like, that did not work for me, but did I sell it at least? Like, there's a whole expression within expression, and that's why drag itself is its own beautiful form of art and incorporates so much art. It's been a very, 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 very big blessing in my life, and I have officially retired from drag. You okay? After a 27-year drag career, that will in itself be its own video. And it was a very hard decision to make. And as I evolved the most over this last year, I knew retirement was even a possibility. And I had to come to terms with it early this year and I still was teetering on it. And everything I've done in drag since last October was a group effort, and it was a group effort mentally, physically, and production wise. And I'm very thankful for a lot of that in a lot of different ways. And like I said, it'll be its own video that I will definitely cry during. And it helped me, learn who I am to keep going out of drag and forever off stage. And that's a video I'm going to cry in. But every piece of my life has led for me to still discover who I am. And that in itself is the transition. So I'm not sure if this channel will end. I do know that some topics are becoming harder and harder to not find content in, because this has never been about being a content creator, but it is leading me to leaving this behind in some ways to work on becoming a content creator. But I always know this channel will be here for me in more than one way. And it started, way back when as, teaching people about their ostomy. And then I was just so lost in not having my transition medically that I just started talking out loud and recording it for myself and for others that needed whatever they've needed out of this. And I'm still transitioning many ways in my life. And everyone does. Some of us just do it in a very, very, very not liked way by some random people. And, there's things in life that you're going to go through that feel like that sweater. And you can stay in that sweater and stay uncomfortable, or you can take it off and be raw and exposed for a minute till you find the sweater that fits. And the no in life will tell you way more than a yes will. And it's how you take that no. And, okay, that didn't work. And you either sit there for too long and you don't try again, or you take that as this didn't work, but what if this does? And, or this doesn't work, how do I make it work? Oh, that's just a no altogether. Okay, now I move this way. It's all about how you take it. And I received a lot of no's in my life. But I have made it through every single one of my bad days so far. And I hope to continue to do that. And staying in a no or staying where something doesn't fit will never help you. And this metaphor is very much not just gender and drag. It's a metaphor for my life. And I have sat in chairs that other people have made me sit in and told me that this is where you sit, this is what you do. And I have stood up and I've walked away from those chairs and sometimes those people. And there have been times where I have been sitting in my own chair and people have tried to get me out of that chair. And no, I'm sitting in this chair. You can sit beside me, or you can choose where you go. And, that itself may feel like a really bad thing, but sometimes it's exactly what you need. So, on a new whole different just encompassation, I don't know how much more I want to talk about my transition, that I want to explain who I am. And that turns into a metaphor for the rest of my life. As someone who is looking to, make parts of their life content on purpose, I need to step back from making things that aren't seem like they are. And I have spent a lot of my time in life being visible for those who couldn't be. And that has been a lot of different labels that have been stuck on me, and some that I have no choice in. And having to explain those along with who I am and how you perceive me has been exhausting and taken up a lot of space in my brain. And I want to be more comfortable with not explaining everything about myself, especially to people that it really does not matter. And most of these views on this channel has been people who do know me, and them being, included in my life in this way is never frowned upon. But it's just those people that I will be communicating these things with in private conversations. My social media aspect of life is changing, and that too will be its own video. If you made it with me this far, these videos do tend to run a little long, and a lot of things in my life are changing, and that's never for the bad. This way is not for the bad. And I, for the first time, kind of have a schedule for this channel. I am for sure going to make 4 videos total till the end of the year. This is the first. And the very last one will be the room tour for Just Jack's Gaming, which I've been talking about. That's one of the few vlogs I've been kind of mentioning here and there and practicing for. And going into next year, I don't know if I will do a vlog or not. And I'm hoping it's not about explaining my identity, and it's not about explaining who I am on the outside or the inside, unless I truly choose to. And I've chosen to make these videos. I have. And I'm very thankful for that I did. It's brought up even more conversations in private for me and some friends and people that were trying to be my friend and became my friends. And behind the scenes look behind the curtain isn't a bad thing, but as I'm trying to branch out in other careers and other parts of my life, looking backwards has been a lot and a very common thing in my life that I am trying to move forward from. And living more of a private life will definitely have a lot of rewards. And like I said, that plans to be its own video in itself. And yeah, so I'm not exactly sure of a schedule, but I do have actual planned videos that aren't just going to be spur of the moment. And I will be recording all of those soon and working on when and what order to do them all. But this is it for this video. And that's all I've got for you today. But see you soon.